Welcome back, Yosef Nasser. Nick Yor here for Redskins Relaunch, and we're going to get into our position evaluations, looking at the current quarterbacks on the Redskins roster, and we're going to start with Alex Smith, obviously brought over in the trade for the third-round pick and second-round pick and Kendall Fuller, and Alex Smith. So we take a look. Last season, 10 touchdowns, 5 interceptions. 62% completion percentage. They brought him over, not as accurate as you might expect, as we're seeing Keenum stats on Alex Smith's graphic. That's there we go. Case Keenum, the starting quarterback. As we imagine, when we take a look at this group, we have to assume that Alex Smith is not going to be there for the rest of the season. They're probably going to put him on PUP, maybe IR. What do you think of Case Keenum? We've seen a few different Case Keenums. We've seen Case Keenum in Houston. We've seen the Case Keenum with the Rams, St. Louis Rams. We've seen Case Keenum when he had that nice run with the Vikings, and then he kind of came back to earth last season with the Broncos. What do you expect to see with the Redskins and Case Keenum?
I mean, I think I like Case Keenum.
Okay.
I think he can be very, very successful in this league, and you saw what it could be like when he does have everything around him in Minnesota. I mean, he can be a successful quarterback. You run a simple offense for him, like the one Jay Gruden runs. It's very similar. Him and Andy Dalton, very similar players. You could see that type of offense being a good mix for Case Keenum. But when you look at his success, look at the people around him in Minnesota. I mean, talented running backs, a good offensive line, a very good defense to keep him in games, and arguably the best receiving core in the league, throwing a good tight end, Kyle Rudolph as well, and then you have Stephon Diggs and Adam Thielen. I mean, if you have that in Washington, I think he could be very successful with this team, but when you put the pieces around him that he's going to have, I just don't think it's going to be as successful. Yeah, you're going to have some great games or some good games with him where he shows his ability and shows why he was a starting quarterback in his league, but when you don't have the requisite weapons around him to really kind of do everything he wants to do, it's not gonna look very good results at the end. So I really think a mixed bag is what's gonna happen for Case Keenum. Some good wins and then some bad games, which is what you've seen really in Washington the past couple of years.
And you mentioned it, when he had that stretch with Minnesota, he had the best receiving core in the league with Adam Thielen, Stephon Diggs. Last year has Emmanuel Sanders, who has a really nice season, Demaryius Thomas, Cortland Sutton, and this year you look at that receiving core, a lot of unproven guys, a lot of guys who aren't getting the separation that those Minnesota and Denver guys are getting. A lot of counting on guys to step up, like a Trey Quinn, having only played 3 games last season, Jordan Reed returning to health. So I think the key is going to be that running game. Darius Geis, they bring back Adrian Peterson. You have to think that the Redskins are going to be one of the more run-heavy teams in the league. The issue with that is that if you fall behind, you're not going to be able to run. You're going to have to feed some of those guys that we've talked about at the receiver position. But Case Keenum, I agree. We saw him in Minnesota, really nice season, 22 touchdowns, 7 interceptions. But in the playoffs against Philadelphia, he threw a pick, and then, the whole team kind of unraveled. Now, a guy who can hold down the fort, I think his teammates respected him throughout his career in various places, whether it's Houston, whether it's the Rams, Vikings, Broncos. He's had the respect of the locker room, but is he a guy who can get you more than 6-7 wins? I'm not sure about that. As we take a look at the third guy, in Colt McCoy. Now, this is a guy who's had a starting stint with the Browns early in his career, drafted in 2010, thought to be the quarterback of the future. That didn't work out. And ever since, he's been a backup on the Redskins. 3 touchdowns, 3 interceptions last season. When you look at the competition between Keenum and McCoy, does McCoy have a shot in this race?
I don't think McCoy has really any shot in this race, and especially the fans aren't going to be excited at all if he ends up winning this race. It would just, I think, would make the fans angry. They wouldn't be happy with the decision or the way the direction this franchise is going, is starting a career-long backup. And so I think that plays a part in it. And because, last year when Colt pretty much had his chance last year when Alex Smith went down. he had that Dallas game. He was confident. You could hear him talking in the media before. He was like, "Don't worry, I got this. Like, we're good. Like, don't, you guys got me." Like, you could see he was talking to his teammates. He was being very confident, all that type of stuff. And that was his game, to go in there and prove it. And he's from Texas. Went to Texas. From there, had to go in and play in Jerry World in Dallas on Thanksgiving. And he made a couple really bad plays that cost them. Other than that, he's been just pretty much a career-long backup. So I really think that was his chance. The fans were confident. They were like, "Oh, Colt McCoy going to Texas. We got this." They were in the game. And then he kind of blew it at the end. And then the next week, awful leg injury as well. So it's just, he really had his chance to be the starter, really take control. And really, when you're a career-long backup, you only really have one shot. You have to do it. You saw Tony Romo when he came in for Drew Bledsoe back in the day in that game. He took his shot. He won that game against Carolina, and he ran with it. And that's really what you kind of have to do as a backup, and he really didn't have his shot, so we really didn't take it. I'm sorry. So I really just think it's done for him as a possible starter for the Washington Redskins.
You know, I absolutely agree. Career quarterback rating of 78.9, which is, 90 at this stage, with the inflation of passing statistics, is considered around average, maybe below average. So not great. 29-26 touchdown interception ratio, 60% completion, 7-20 as a starter, 1-5 as a starter with the skin. So I agree. My perception of Colt McCoy, a guy who knows the offense, can help bring along a young quarterback if they were to bring a quarterback on board. If they were to get rid of him, according to Over the Cap, it'd be a $2 million cap hit. So something to consider if the Redskins do hold out hope that Alex Smith can come back. They have to think that that ship has sailed, though, with the injury that he incurred last season against Houston. And obviously the Redskins potentially looking to bring in a young quarterback. So do you think there is a young quarterback that could challenge if the Redskins were to bring a young quarterback in? We're assuming that if it's between Keenum and McCoy, Keenum is going to get the starting gig. Is there a young quarterback that could challenge Keenum, or do you think that they hold off on playing the young guy, let Keenum take the brunt of the season, and then maybe towards the end of the season let a young guy, whether it's a Josh Rosen, whether it's a Drew Lock, Daniel Jones, what have you, how do you think they would approach that with a young quarterback?
As the roster and the offense is presently constructed, then I think it's all going to be Case Keenum full on. I mean, if you get Josh Rosen, then maybe, I think since he has that year of NFL experience, he maybe command a locker room just a little bit better, having that 1 year as a so-so starter starting half the year. So I think maybe Josh Rosen, but even him, I think they would sit him a couple games just until they really get this roster where they like it. I mean, if you go out and have a great draft, you fill a bunch of needs and you sign a couple more free agents and this roster looks a lot better, a lot more well-rounded, then yeah, I think a rookie quarterback could come in, or Josh Rosen, and make some noise if he has someone to throw the ball to on the outside. That opens up stuff for Jordan Reed, so he's not getting doubled the entire year. I mean, why wouldn't you double Jordan Reed when the only other people to throw to are Josh Dotson, Paul Richardson, Trey Quinn? That gives more room for Garius Dice, stuff like that. So if they really can improve this roster with the rest of this offseason, then maybe. But if presently constructed, I think it is Case Keenum's show moving forward.
Well, that would sit for our quarterback evaluation series here on the Redskins Relaunch. When we return, we're going to tie up some loose ends, different things going on in the sporting world. We're going to talk about the legacy of Ernie Grunfeld, the Washington Wizards. We're going to talk about March Madness and more here on Redskins Relaunch. When we return, stay with us. We'll be right back.
This content is brought to you by Dental Associates. For more than 39 years, Dr. Stephen Price has been practicing dentistry in Northern Virginia. A member of the American Dental Association, the Northern Virginia Dental Society, and the Virginia Dental Society, Price is considered an expert in Invisalign and continues to be an award-winning innovator in the industry. DMVSTREAM.COM, the Mid-Atlantic's leader in sports video, broadcasting, and live streaming. Contact us today to learn more about our services and streaming packages. Visit us on the web at DMVSTREAM.COM. That's DMVSTREAM.COM.